Thank you all for joining online and in person. We're so glad to see you all. And today I'll be taking the career workshop and interviewing skills. But before I get started, Pastor Victor said I should introduce myself. Um, so I just wanted to start by just giving you a little bit of my background. I started my career, I think, in 2009. I went to school at Oklahoma State University and I had my bachelor's in electrical engineering. And when I was there, I think towards my third year, I started figuring out that I don't want to spend my life soldering wires. Praise the Lord. So, but kind of found a passion through that my first degree. I was working with a professor as an undergraduate researcher, and I found out I loved signal analysis a lot. I loved analyzing data from dogs and all those type of anything that had to do with data analysis. I loved it. So I finally, when I got done, I took the next step and applied for my master's in the area of business intelligence and data analytics. And after having my master's in business intelligence and data analytics, I got my first job in the US. It was actually with IBM. And I was like a researcher for IBM Research, and they flew me out to Kenya for about 3 months to do my first research with them. And I did it in the field of data science. That was in 2015. So I quickly figured out again, why I'm telling this story is just for you to know that the process of career building is like an iteration. Like I started from electrical, I was like, I don't think I want to be here. Then I iterated again. So after doing my research at IBM Research, I did it in data science. And I figured out that I don't want to be predicting because data science actually is a field where you have to predict, and it's not like Daniel said, it's not like 100 over 100. It's almost like a 90% chance that this will happen and that will happen, and your accuracy rate and all that. So, but I just figured out I don't want to be in data science, but I preferred helping businesses make smart decisions using data. And I focused my career on the field of business intelligence. So my first full-time job here in the United States was actually at Pittsburgh with Pittsburgh Water and Sewer Authority. And I was helping the business there just predict like which locations have you built, which locations have you not built, which bills are going out so you don't have all these big lawsuits and all that. I loved that. And that was where I decided to focus. So I loved just helping businesses make smart decisions using data. And that's how I entered into the field of business intelligence and data analytics. But while I was there again, I got my first interview that was a contract job actually for my first full-time position in the United States. And that was with KPMG LLP, right? And they interviewed me for more of data skills. I didn't know that they're pushing me into the accounting industry. So after I got the job with them, it was more on tax technology, like using data to be able to support the filing of taxes, because all big companies must file taxes and they file it with a lot of data. So imagine like a Burger King that has like 100,000 locations and they need to file taxes. They have like thousands of data sets, and that is where I focused my career for the past 9 to 10 years. And have been, by the grace of God, in multiple multinational companies. I've worked with KPMG, I've worked with EY. I'm currently at AT&T, and T, and I've also had interviews with a lot of top companies for the same position. Is an art field that is not known. Praise the Lord. So I've had interviews with a lot of them telling me, oh, come and work for us with Walmart, with Facebook and the other companies. So again, the process of career is just like an iteration until you find your place. Praise the Lord. So today, what am I talking about? I'm talking about interview prep, and resume building. And why is this important? And I will be sharing my screen over here. Why is resume building and interview prep so important? So I'll pull up my slides over here. Can you all see my screen? Okay, good. So because this is very important, because no matter the skill we know, no matter what we feel that we know, like no matter the knowledge you have, basically, if you don't know how to sell it, you will not be able to get into the door. Praise the Lord. And selling your skill is a skill on its own, right? Selling your skill is a skill. And the first way you sell your skill is through your resume. That no employer knows you, right? And no employer also know your skills. But the way you write your resume and tailor it to your employer's job is what gives you the first foot at the door. So basically, what is a resume? A resume is a summary of your experiences and skills. The key word there is relevance. Relevant to the field of work you're entering. It's more like a marketing tool. And I can tell you that an employer basically doesn't spend 5 seconds on your resume. It's more like a scanning. Now they have all this applicant tracking system. But after the ATS has removed all the people they want to remove, the employer starts reading your resume. Let me not say 5 seconds. Let's just say 1 minute. Let's even say 1 minute on your resume. So the main thing is, I want you to know is that your resume, the first thing is, if you don't have more than 10 years of experience, basically for every 5 years of experience, you should have 1 page of resume. For every 5 years of relevant experience, you should have 1 page of a resume. So if your experience is going to 10 years of experience with various companies, you should have only 2 pages. And then that's when you're looking for mid roles. But as an entry-level person, most times it's always advisable to keep your resume to 1 page. Preparation, know yourself. Basically, I've seen people just like say, oh, I'm distributing my resume. I applied to 100 jobs and I got 1 interview. That is because it's better to be specific and be very direct on your resume. First of all, when you look at any job, right, you should be able to screen yourself and say, okay, am I fit for this job? Before even applying or tailoring. So there are 3 stages. First of all, you look at the job description and you look at and you assess your skills. Like, okay, am I skilled enough for this job? And then the next thing is you take your resume and prepare your resume for that job. You look at all the skills on that job and you prepare an inventory. Actually, what I tell people to do is, before you even start looking at the jobs themselves, right? Have an inventory of all your experiences. Actually have it on a page or a OneNote or anything. Have an inventory. What are the databases you know? What are the data analytics software you know? What are the visualization skills you know? Anything you know, an inventory of all your skills that you've ever played with. Have it written on a page and just leave it there. Then for each job you want to apply to, you take the inventory of your skills and you start, right now there's something like AI is there to help you. You start using it to tailor your skills down to your resume. Praise the Lord. So the first thing, again, I think I've said is know the position, the necessary skills. They normally have desired qualification. No, they have required qualification, and then they have preferred qualification. It's very important for you to know that when you're looking at your job, the job description. The required qualification is like a screening. If you don't have this, don't even apply. Then the preferred qualification is, okay, you have this, then you don't have these ones. It's okay. It's not our perfect candidate, but you can still apply. You understand? So I would tell you that you should take those qualifications and take your skills. And we have AI now. You can tell ChatGPT to align your qualification, the qualifications needed for the job with your skills. and then you start tweaking it and making it like, it's more like an iterative process. You need to make it very, 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 very tailored to the job. So one resume, you should not be using one resume for 10 jobs, because different jobs are different. Praise the Lord. There are different types of resumes. I don't want to go too much into these. The ones we know the most is the reverse chronological resume. That is the standard format, right? Where you start by his date oriented, your current experience, and your basically your current experience, the experience you had before it, and all that. They call it reverse chronological resume. It highlights your work record. Basically, depending on the type of position you're applying to, we normally tell people that if you're entry level, you should start with your education first. But if you've had at least 2 to 3 years of experience, start with your experience first on your resume. We'll talk more about that. So again, the format of resume, your heading, your objective, your summary of qualifications. Then for people that have education, then your experience. I'll just jump through some of these. The heading, what matters most is your name and your phone number and your email. Those are the three things that matters most. You really don't need to put your address. I'll tell everybody, just have like a very appropriate professional email. If you don't have it, it's easy to open your first name dot your last name at gmail.com. Gmail is always kind of preferred. I'm not selling Google, but it's kind of preferred. So this is how a resume should look mostly. You don't really need to put your address. The main thing is just put your name, your phone number, and your email. Objective, people used to ask, is objective really important or not? I'll say you don't really need to put an objective. And if your resume is going to 2 to 3 pages, it's important to put a summary on top just to summarize it to them for them. Again, your objective is just like, sometimes it's just like a reiteration that, oh, I want to get this job at your company because I have these skills, right? It's not like a vague objective, and you should, I think, again, the objective is a part of resume that can be skipped. You understand? And if you're even putting it, instead of you to put something like this, okay, I want to gain a position where I can be an asset to my employer, you should talk more about the employer. To gain a position as this at your company because I have these skills, you understand? Not just a generic objective. But again, the objective is really not an important part. So after that, you need to, again, summary and objective are things people always go, like, should we have it or should we not have it? You really don't need these two. You can just jump right into your resume, right? But summary is when you've had a lot of experiences and you just want them to see, okay, these are my key skills and all that. In your resume, one thing I want to highlight is every keyword in the job description should be scattered around your resume, right? It should be scattered around your resume because the ATS would use that to be able to match your resume to the job. And then they'll be able to see that, okay, this resume actually has all the keywords in this job description, and it will match it almost like on a high percentage, maybe like 70%, 80%, 90%. So look for the keywords in the job. I know there are some AI tools that actually does that. They will take the job and they will take your resume and they will tell you how much it matches. So it's like a pre-ATS screening before you give it to the employer. Again, education. These are for people that are just coming out of school. If your GPA is not above 3.0, don't put your GPA there. It's not needed. They really don't need to know. It just lists your skills and your strong points and your experience. What counts as experience? Again, don't put everything you've done. Oh, I worked as a medical billing or coder when you're looking for a job at a tech company. You don't need to put irrelevant experience. Emphasize only what is needed for the job. And it's important to quantify your experience. And I know I'll soon come to that where we talk about the STAR methodology, like what is the situation you worked on, what is the task you did, which actions did you take in that job or the position or the role you did, and what were the results. The results is where you quantify. I was able to save this company $100,000. Like I was able, so for instance, the job I did at Pittsburgh Water and CY Authority, I was able to minimize lawsuits that were costing the company like $10,000 and above for sending a wrong bill. You understand? So those type of things. So what counts as experience, especially for people that are just starting, is very important for you to know that your volunteer positions, your community service positions, they are also experiences. Your internships, your work at your student organizations, those are experiences. And that's why um, by the grace of God, I counseled a lot of people on career and how to get their jobs. If I see somebody is just coming to the United States for the first time, I tell them, go and get a volunteer position. Like go to volunteermatch.org. There are thousands of positions there waiting for you. I've actually gotten lots of volunteer position. Actually, any field you want, even if you've been here for a while, any field you want to switch into, like if I'm coming from electrical to IT, right, and I want to switch into IT, I would actually go and volunteer first and try to understand how this field runs. And if you're learning a new skill, you're getting certified on a new skill, go and volunteer your time on that skill. Honestly speaking, I prefer to see a volunteer position on a resume than seeing I was just a graduate assistant, like, and I was grading scores and grading students. So when I'm looking at resumes and I see graduate assistant, I'm like, yeah, you're a graduate assistant, but how does that help? Like, which specific work did you do that is relevant to this position? So sometimes your volunteer work actually carries more weight because when you're in the interview, you're able to talk more about what you've done. I think I've mentioned this, minimize irrelevant experiences and only use experiences that are very important. Quantify your experiences. How many people did you supervise and things like that. Again, resume building it's like a one-day workshop, but Pastor Victor's actually did it in 30 minutes. So we will try to run through it, expand on your skills, and again, you don't really need to list a lot of things, but if you have things that stand out like that is relevant to the job, please add them. You don't need to include references, and your resume format should be very simple. This is one I talk about a lot. Like you spent all the time on your resume and you just put it on a Word document. I advise people don't use a Word document for your resume. Even if you did your resume on Microsoft Word, export it to PDF before sending it. Because the way Microsoft Word looks on the phone is different from the way Microsoft Word will look on a 32-inch screen that we use at work. Really big screens, you understand? So it's very important you export it as a PDF because PDF always keeps the format. And again, your resume, especially if you're applying directly, is going through all these applicant tracking systems. And there are some ways Microsoft Word can go and put where it's not supposed to be in another place. So it's very important that you are also putting your resume in a very good format that all these ATS systems can easily read and not just making it so fancy and all that. I wouldn't go into cover letter, but of recent, I've heard that cover letters help you stand out. There are some applications I was doing before I got my last job. I put in cover letters with the application. Number one, it shows that you're somebody that goes the extra mile. And number two, your cover letters just iterate some things and some questions, especially maybe if you have like a gap in your employment or that, the cover letters just clarify the position, like a letter to them, like, hey, this is something extra about me that you need to know. And in the interest of time, I will just stop here. Does anyone have any questions? Or anything, any questions? Okay.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation, ma'am. So you did mention that about GPA, including GPA. So I just wanted to find out, because I've seen that a lot, that some people put their CGPA even on LinkedIn. So for resume, so what weight does including GPA carry with the employer when they are reviewing the resume? Is it really weighty? Is it something that should be considered for somebody who has above 3 points, something like you mentioned? Or
That's a great
mm,
question. Yeah. And I think I would put it this way. If you're applying for an entry level position, like all these positions that they come to your school or people's school to employ for, and they know they are looking for students, right? And you're getting the interview or the job, you're giving it through handshake, the school systems and all that, you're doing that. Put your GPA if it's good. It shows the employer that this is a very smart person, the person is diligent and all that. But if you're applying for a role where they say 3 years experience, 5 years experience, you don't need a GPA. We don't look at it. Like it really doesn't carry any weight at all. So it depends on the level of position you're applying for. And thanks. That is a very important question. Thank you for that. Any other questions?
Yeah, just to add to that, just to support what she said. Again, I've had the opportunity based on my experience. When I see resume, most times when we put our job out there and we are looking for people, so when we see the resume, the most important thing, like she said, the relevant experience. You can see someone that has a good GPA if they don't have a relevant experience that matches that job description. Yeah, the person may not move forward with that resume. So yeah, if it's like she said, entry level, come to your school, your GPA, okay, that's fine. But yeah, for work that requires experience, they don't look at the GPA. Yeah, I won't look at it.
Yeah. Again, for every field, I don't know how to buttress this so much. For every field you want to enter into, right? If you don't have experience in that field, go and volunteer or go and find something. That's why internships are important because it puts you at the pedestal where you're able to talk to the employers with confidence. If you even get the job, you're able to tailor your resume based on your volunteer position. I have done this. I've done this is different from I've learned this. You understand? So, and that's why when people are coming back out from scam, like even if you, for instance, you want to apply for a Power BI position, there are lots of positions out there that can volunteer, build the dashboards. I have a resume on a link with different dashboards that you've built, and you even link to it, and you show them how you built it and can talk through it. I added this, I did that. You understand? That's really what matters in a resume. Most of the time, so we are looking for like real tangible experiences. And now to jump into the interview process. But one other thing about resume, after spending all this time on resume again, these resumes, they go through ATS systems. But one thing I would like to encourage us to do is find someone to refer you. Internal referral is kind of a, let me say, you give your resume through the ATS and just apply online. A lot of times it's like a 10% chance that you would get an interview back, depending on the field and how tailored your field is. So, for instance, if someone is applying for a cloud engineering job, like that is so broad. But if I'm applying for a job like a financial, accounting, analytics skills like this, there are not so many people. That is kind of very, what is it called? That is very tailored, and it's easier to get interviews for those type of jobs than to get an interview for a cloud engineering job. And I'm saying this because I've worked with people that are trying to get those type of broad jobs like data science and all that. And I'm like, which industry? Like you can do data science in health, you can do it in finance, you can do it in food. Which industry are you in? You understand? You need to be much more tailored. The more tailored you are, the easier it is for you to get positions quickly and easily. Yeah, and find internal referrals. I've gotten almost all my jobs in the United States through internal referrals. Like somebody basically taking my job and giving to the employer. That's it. This person, I know them. Can you employ them? Something like that. That's just the simplest way to get jobs. Yeah. And okay, time for us to talk about the interviewing skills. But does anyone online have any questions? So let's talk about interview prep in the interest of time, because this is another big topic in interview prep, like the objective of the interview, different types of interview, preparation for the interview, your role as the interviewer, and or the role of the interviewer and you, the applicant, and when you've got into the second interview. So basically, your resume has done the first marketing job for you, and now it's time for you to market yourself, right? The first interview most times in the US in general is with the recruiter. And the recruiter will call you, you just say phone call, come into your phone and like, hey, or sometimes they'll send you an email, we're interested, we saw your resume, we're interested in discussing what times do you have, you send it to them and all that. And this is more like the screening interview. It's a time where they screen you to see if you're a good fit for the position and where you can be able to tell them a little bit about your skills, for them to know, number one, that you're a human being, because there are so many bots now applying for positions. So they'll screen you and all that. Sometimes they also want to know your salary expectations, especially for more senior roles where people will not want to accept like some lower salary. They want to know if you fall within the range that they're looking at. And it's just, so that first interview is really screening. It's one that almost everybody should, should ace without any issues. And the breakdown of the first interview is more for you to learn about the company and for you to sell yourself to the company. And this is just actually the breakdown of most interviews actually. And what is the interviewer looking for? More like, do you have the ability to do this job? And sometimes they do this by asking you specific questions about the job, like behavioral interviews, like when have you done this or when have you done that? But we'll go into that. Types of interview, screening interview, which is what I said. The second type is selection interviews. Now you've passed the screening interview. This is mostly conducted in the employer's office or online now that we have a lot of Zoom and video conferencing. I think more people do it mostly on Zoom. The purpose is to make those hiring decisions, and it's mostly with your future supervisor. I like to tell people that interview is a two-way street. As much as they're interviewing you and you want the job, you should be interviewing them. You should be seeing how they're handling things. Are they coming to the interview late? What is the process of their scheduling? Are they scheduling it in a way that is very structured? It kind of give you an idea about the company. I always, before interviews, I like to read a lot about the company. So I really want to be in this culture. I go into the Glassdoor, I read their reviews. What are people saying about this company? What is the CEO review? If you're saying CEO review less than 50%, it's telling you something that people are not generally not happy in the company. You understand? So you should be interviewing the company as much as the company is interviewing you. Yeah, again, typical screening interview. You just introduce yourself, skill evaluation, sell yourself, and things like that. So preparing for your interview, again, like I said, with the resume, have your list of all your skills that you've done. So I'm in the data analytics field, right? So I have a list of all the databases I know, a list of all the data visualization tools I know, a list of every single thing that I've done, and extra skills I've done. And then since I'm more in the finance field, I have a list of all my financial knowledges, all my certifications. So when I'm talking in the interview, I'm going from top to down. I'm just telling them, I've done this, I've done that, I know these databases, this is what I do. And so it's just like streamline my talking points, and then That is the first part of the interview, like the first 5 minutes where they say, tell me about yourself. I just go through all my list and I tell them, okay, these are all the things I've done. Then the second part is where they start throwing to you more like screen, like they're trying to now check if you really know it. Tell me when you've done this and tell me when you've done that. And this is where I would say when you're responding to those type of interview, right, you need to use the STAR methodology. You need to use the STAR methodology to respond. And I think I have it here. The situation, the task, the action, and the results. And when you're even saying the result, you tell them, this is how I've done this, and this is how I hope to do it in your own company. So you need to tie it. It's not just about you talking to them. You need to look at it from their own perspective of the company. How is the company doing this right now? So I see that, okay, your company is looking for someone. I've done this and this and this. I see your company is looking for someone to do this and that. This is how I would do it if I'm offered this position. So you start putting yourself into the company when you're interviewing. Like when I'm in this company and in this role, this is all the things I will do. Does anyone here, I'm sure, is this the first time anyone is hearing about the STAR method? I'm sure you've all heard about it, right? It's sometimes we look down on it, but it's very important. It gives structure to your response. So if they tell me about the time when you've created a dashboard for leaders and how it impacted their decision-making process. You have to, it's almost like you're telling a story, just like our brother was saying, like, almost like you're telling a story. You can say, okay, I was at I got a project to do this, and this was the tax I was giving. They wanted to show how the company is doing with their finances. They wanted to know their profit and loss. They couldn't visually see it. So I took action. That is the end. I took action by building this. I added this. I collaborated with people in India, and we did this and that. And the result was that we were able to save. So that is the result. So that's how you tell the stories through this STAR methodology. Okay, and this is all just talking about the STAR method. This one I want to talk about is questions for the interviewer. I cannot buttress it enough. Like, you should come prepared, knowing about the company and asking the interviewer relevant questions, because you would be the one on the job and you don't want them to fire you after 5 months or 6 months, because you know that this is very important. This job, if you're really considering taking it, is very important that you know how they operate, right? And there are some key questions I like to ask, and I would encourage everybody to ask. Number one is, how does the team communicate? I want to make sure that I'm not at the place where I'm left alone and everybody's just busy, 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 busy. And me as a new person, how would we be communicating? Who am I reporting to? Who would be the person to review my work? Am I going to be working with people offshore, onshore? How do you communicate? How do we make sure that we are all moving forward? So communication, I always ask that question. Number two is, what is expected from me on this role? What do you define as success in this role in the next 6 months? So as 6 months coming, I would like to hit the ground running. What would you define as success? What is the pain point? I like asking that question. Why is this position open? What is the pain point of the company now? Like, why do they want to fill someone in this role? So that I can know that if they're expecting something too much that I can't do, I know that, okay, maybe this is not a right fit for me. You understand? But if they're telling me, okay, we are having issues with coordinating our technology with I'm just using my own experience now, with our accounting, and want to make sure that we're able to streamline. I know that, okay, this is something I can hit the ground running, and I can tell them, oh, during the interview, you mentioned this, and now this is how it's being done when I get a job and all that. So when you ask them that question, they would respond to you, and your work then is to tell them, this is how I would do it. Again, this is now making it easier for them to pick you as the right candidate, because it's a conversation. What do you expect from me? They will tell you what they expect from you, and then you tell them how you would do it. So it's more like a conversation, right? So these are things that improves your chances of getting the job during the interview. Again, you want to look at it a lot from the employer perspective. A lot from the employer perspective. Why do they need somebody for this job? I've been at job interviews where I'm even the one like preferring the solution that, oh, number three, which tools do you have? Which tools do you all use? It helps you to be able to know, are there any tools I might need to learn? Are these tools that I don't even know about and things like that? So all those things, those type of questions are really, really important. Put yourself as if you're in the job. Think through the job as if you're actually doing the job. And what questions, what tools, what pains might you have when you're doing that job, and ask those questions. Um, we're getting almost rounding up. Selection process. Once you make it through those first round screening and first interview, a lot of time they'll want you to meet with other directors, other IR people. This is already showing that they are interested. This is a time for you to speak more confidently. This is a time for you to show you're the best candidate for the job. This is a time for you to sell yourself and tell them, I've done it for employer A. I've done it when I was volunteering. I've done it before, and I can deliver it to you and bring a lot of profit to your company. And you can, this way you start telling them, I've always exceeded expectations. I know how to communicate. I know how to do this. Again, it's a selling process. The whole process of interview is a selling process. It's also a time for you to see if you're a good fit for that company or if they're a good fit for you. And then I think the remaining thing is just for you to wait for the selection process. I always like to ask them, what are the next steps? When should I expect to hear back from you and all that? Before you take any job, it's very important to negotiate your salary. I know this is not salary talking now. It's very important for you to negotiate your salary because at the job, you can't really negotiate your raise, right? But before you get in, it's very important. If they, it's kind of a disservice to yourself for you to just take the first offer they give to you. It's always good to tell them, oh, I know this is my value. I've brought this value to this company and that company, and I know that I would be able to help your company reach your goals. This is what I'm worth, and this is what I'm willing to take for this position. And I think that is it for interview. And does anyone have any questions? So final suggestion on interview, always be on time, be positive, don't talk down on your previous employer, even if you don't like them or anything. Maintain good eye contact, be very confident in your skills. That's why, again, having a prior experience would help you to be able to talk well with confidence. Um, Take notes. I don't know why this says take notes. Smile. Make sure your phone is off. Dress well. Your first impression matters. Dress very well. Dress professionally. Your first impression matters. Groom yourself as you need to. And yeah, any questions?
I have a question.
Okay.
So for someone getting their first job, um, how would salary negotiation work? Do you think that if I ask for more than what I expect, that they might take away the offer?
Well, if an employer is willing to take an offer based on negotiation, I don't know if you want to work with them. You understand? So the thing is, salary negotiation is just like, it's almost like a game of chess. Like they give you this and tell them, oh, I believe this is what would make me happy in this position, and this is what I'm on. For a first interview, for a first job, I'll say don't negotiate so much, especially if you don't have something. You understand? If you don't have a benchmark, sometimes people negotiate based on benchmarks, like, okay, I've built my quality of life based on this salary. I can't take something lower. You understand? So I'm looking for a pay raise and all that. So I would say for a first job, don't allow them to sell you low. Like they shouldn't be giving you $10 per hour for something that is like $20 per hour. But also for the first job, there's not too much wiggle room because you don't, again, have something to fall back on. But sometimes when you're on higher positions and you're looking for those higher positions, your current employer is already paying you in such a way that maybe you like, right? And you want something higher, then that's when you negotiate well. Yeah. Okay, Mr. Ayo wants to add on that.
Real quick, so maybe for the first job also, or whichever level of job, when it comes to negotiation, the first thing you want to make sure that, okay, are they really going to employ, are they going to give you that job? So after giving you that job and you know that you have secured the job, then you can now introduce the salary negotiation.
Yeah.
But if you are not sure of getting the job and you are now talking about salary, this that might even disqualify the person from getting
Exactly, exactly. You want to make sure your job is secured. They've given you an offer, not just word of mouth offer. They've given you the offer letter. You understand? Then you negotiate your salary. I never answer that question. I never answer that question. If somebody comes and asks me, what is my salary? It actually happened this week. You know, these people that sends you all these jobs to you. I was like, okay, what is the salary of this job? They will, no, they will ask me. I'm like, what is the range? I'm open to learning the range of this position. Then they'll tell you the range. But you should not be the first one to throw out a number. Yeah.
Okay, sorry, just on that, before I ask my question. So if you are given a range, so are you just gonna say, okay, I'm okay with it, or you have the allowance to
Sometimes when the range is far lower than what I'm expecting, I just know that it's not for me. You understand? So when they bring back their range, if it's closer to what I'm expecting, I'm like, okay, maybe I can test it out, I can try it out. But when the range is like 20,000, 30,000 lower than what you're expecting, I'm like, nah, yeah, I'm not even going to test it out at all. Yeah.
And also on that, so you said that it's advisable that after you got the offer letter, that's when you should bring up the subject of the pay.
Yeah.
So are you going to like request for like a meeting with the whoever is in charge of the hiring manager to discuss the pay, especially, or on what platform? Because I'm imagining that you're going to get maybe an email to say that congratulations, you've been offered this position. And maybe after that, based on your advice, that's when you should bring up the matter of the salary. So are you going to now write an email to respond, I mean, a response email to say, can we discuss salary, or how do you really go about it?
That's a good question. Peace, I see your hands up. I'll come to you shortly. So that's a good question. Again, what I would say is that when they give you an offer letter, or sometimes they actually call to give an offer first. They give a verbal offer. So when they call to give you an offer, they will tell you this is the salary. And on the offer letter, they will write the salary. Then you will write back to the person and say, okay, well, thank you for this offer. I mean, you have to be positive. I really appreciate it. Has been a great experience for me and all that. In order for me to be able to be very satisfied and really give you my best, I feel this is what would be sufficient for me. Are you willing to consider it? You just have to write it something back to them, and that's where the negotiation. I was actually working with somebody by the grace of God last 2 months to get a job, and we negotiated and negotiated until they met him like halfway on that position. So yeah, because it was kind of almost like 15 to 20K lower than what he was expecting. So, and it was a good job. So we negotiated until he got to a position. I'm like, yeah, you can just take it since we didn't have another job to fully benchmark what they really needed. Yeah.
Another thing, most of the time, the offer will come from the HR,
Yeah.
right? So unfortunately, at that point, most of the time, before they give you the offer, the hiring manager will, the HR will talk with the hiring manager, and they agree on the salary they are going to pay. So most of the time, the offer comes from the HR. Now, if you are now negotiating, the HR will probably be the person you are going to be negotiating with, and they are going to go back to the hiring manager and talk with them. Now, it's a little tricky because you don't really have the opportunity to talk directly to the hiring manager. Maybe when you talk directly to the hiring manager, they probably might increase it or not, So whatever, because they don't really know you. You are just going to get the job for the first time working with them. Yeah, so that kind of really is tricky, except if you are now working with them directly, they know you, you are doing a good job, and you have access to the person, the hiring manager. For example, for me, I have my boss, my deputy director. I have access to him directly. I talk to him. This is what I want. You will take it to the leadership and say, this is what this person, and yeah, and it's really working. So it's little tricky there. So until when you get in, yes, you now have access to a lot of these people, and you can easily talk directly to them. Then they will go and now talk to the HR to increase your salary. And that's the way it works.